download feedback. Okay. Gotcha. Alright, so this feels like a Maya problem. Alright, so is the goal, I remember you're doing like the emissive keyboard. Is the goal to have the letter, or like the texture of the letters shining through?
Yeah, because when I do the turntable render, depending on the angle, the lights actually don't show up because they're underneath the keys. So I'm thinking if the letters themselves are transparent, you can definitely see it more.
Right. No, that makes sense. So my thought was actually, I don't know if the transparency would actually make sense. I'm gonna do, first of all.
How it is in like the actual.
Oh yeah.
Keyboard reference.
Right. No, I mean, and that makes total sense. Let me set your project really quick. Downloads. Speaking of things, while I find this project, I will be using. There's a folder in the sample model thing called Mashplay. I will be using some of those files later if anyone wants to download that and fiddle with them. In the meantime, yay, nothing hooked up still.
No, it's not working.
I have issues with like all of these computers being ridiculous. Sometimes, oh, that one might have actually, oh wait, no, never mind. That's really weird. I don't know exactly why that's not hooking up. I can still show you probably without having your textures work. But I was gonna suggest, so, all right. How have you done the glow on these keys here?
So originally for the emission, I had a panel underneath that has a gradient texture on it,
Okay,
and I made that emit light.
gotcha. All right. You can totally do weird. I'm just gonna break this really quick and just make it, just add in like a quick ramp shader because I want to see how it actually works with the rainbow light. It's gonna be a real sketchy ramp shader. Green. God, my eyes are burning. All right. So hopefully, yeah. So we have some color renders. I'll switch this to URamp, so it's probably going the correct direction. All right. Yeah, so I think what I would probably do, I'm just going to do a really quick test really quick to see what happens. And this is a thing that I don't recommend doing like at all. I'm just going to assign a new texture to these faces just as like a weird quick test. I just want to see if the transparency, like if I do actually make this transparent, if it will actually show up, like if the emission will actually show up through that texture. If it doesn't, I have another weird theory about how to sort of make that work. But yeah, so I mean, it doesn't super look like that's showing up. Say again? Fair point. All right, so it looks like transmission weight actually kind of worked a little bit better for some reason, or the thing just needed to refresh itself because now it seems to be working. Who the heck knows? All right, so that totally does work. So what you could do is basically turn the keys into their own little cards. So let me see your UVs. All right, so is this your keys up here?
Yep.
Okay. Let's just get, whatever. But basically what you should be able to do is you can turn, again, just kind of turn this entire thing into a card. So if you go down here and like put a map on opacity, make sure that, well, for Arnold at least, make sure that the thing is set to be opaque. It should function pretty much like this is doing here. So I'm just gonna go through real quick and just export a quick UV snapshot of this. Where is it? It's gonna get real weird. You probably already have these somewhere, don't you? All right, throw this into Photoshop. Oh good, I've put it as an if file. Holy crap. Yo, these actually open in Photoshop. I've never tried that before, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, so actually, strictly speaking, if you wanted each of the separate keys to have different textures on them, you should probably lay out their UVs separately, at least for the top face of the keys. Otherwise, you're just going to have a bunch of repeating textures. But I'm just going to draw a very, very awkward smiley. Cool. And save this as a very awkward PNG. Awkward smile. No. Alright. Cool. So now theoretically, if I go into your real person file, I'll just go down and again just put that map into the weight for ooh, crap, that was a mission. My bad. Put that into the map for opacity, and I think I made the file the wrong way. That's pretty. Awkward smile. Amazing. Yeah, so I totally made this file backwards, but cough, I'm just going to invert that. And that would pretty much be the effect that you get. Oh wow, I put that in the completely wrong face there. Not bad. But that's like more or less the effect that you would get, which does seem to kind of break down a little bit if you do it on higher, because I have absolutely no idea which texture this is. What did I just save that as, PNG? Cool, thank you. I'm just gonna overwrite that file. Because my concern would be that the, yes, please do replace that. At some angles, like the keyboard light might not show up, which, for all I know, could actually be completely accurate looking with that keyboard. Have you just not saved it yet? Did I do literally every face except the one I meant to? That would be, okay. This is totally the part where I cheat and I just grab all of these UV shells and shift them around until they are where I need them to be. Alright, you get the point. It does actually seem like that's working. And it seems like if you go over to the sides, it does sort of show up. Again, it's kind of falling off like when you get back here just because of the walls of the keyboard. Because it seems like the emission isn't quite going far enough up to like really shine through that gap, but it totally will get you a little bit more of an effect. What I was going to suggest is, and this is again assuming that you've laid out your keyboard UVs in a way that kind of matches up with this gradient you have on the keyboard, but you can actually add a emission to these keys, to the keys themselves, and then use basically the map that I just made as an emission weight. And that would basically make all of the letters themselves glowing, so it should show up from a better angle.
So, could I also just go ahead and use the create typeface in Maya, lay them out all onto the keyboard, make them combine into one object, and put it on the map?
Honestly, you probably could. That's possibly like the least elegant way to do that, but like if you brute forced it enough so that the letters had the curvature of your keys, I suppose that could actually work. It does seem a little bit heavy-handed perhaps, but that would totally work. So what I was going to say, so really quick, I'm just setting the opacity back to 0. For emission, I'll just keep it white for now, what the heck. And then for emission weight, I'm going to add in that file texture that I just found. That should, again, theoretically make these glow, which might, well, I don't know what would be less preferable to you, either modifying your UVs and making a texture for the keys, or like adding a bunch of keys, but yeah, oh god. Once again, I have set this up the wrong way. Creepy little smile keys. Alright, let me refresh my render. So like, again, theoretically doing something like this should work. I didn't check Alpha's Luminous, did I? Hey. Now you have creepy glowing smile keys. But like, again, this is just done with an omission map. So theoretically, if you had a texture on the rest of this keyboard, it should show up. So like if I made this, you know, a lighter gray, like that's showing up. You can see the shadowing from the emissive bottom part. And then if I change this to be blue, all of these show up blue. And this is going to hold up a lot better if you actually like rotate around to the side. The glow shows up a little bit more, which is maybe a little bit less realistic, but also like does give you the punchier effect if that is something that you need. It was kind of long-winded, but did that kind of answer your question or help? Yep. Sweet. I'm not going to lie, this is like a weirdly satisfying image to me. But anyway. That explains a lot, okay.
Yeah, because I used the light community.
Gotcha.
I did all my renders in there.
This does make sense. I was going to throw an extra light in, I'm like, it'll be easier to see the emission if I don't, but yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. All right, cool. Anyone else have any thoughts, comments, questions, or doing a similar thing for your project and want to troubleshoot? Cool. Anybody else want to look at their files? Cool. Skylar? Skylar, dang it. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, give me like 10 seconds to download the stuff. Gotcha. All right, cool. So any specific questions or just kind of wanted feedback?
I definitely do need feedback, but also I wondered if the lighting for turntable is good enough.
Okay. Yeah, I can take a look at that.
Also, I kind of lazy on texturing, so I didn't texture the back of the PC, but nobody's gonna see that part. So should I texture it?
Is it your hero object that you'll see it in the turntable?
It is.
Then yes.
Like, how detailed would it need to be?
Enough to be recognizable as a PC with whatever PC stickers are on it.
Okay. So, like, you know, like PC has those ports in the back, right?
Yeah.
So, those things, I didn't actually model nor texture.
Okay. Let me really quick. Is this under the PC folder, I take it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, look at the turntable. Ooh, it's a rainbow. Why is this glowing rainbow? I like it. Oh, okay, so this is like the PC, the tower piece.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the monitor. The brush metal texture you have looks nice. Let me see if I can find one in the back of that. Presumably this one. Is this the back? Okay.
It's just absolutely nothing.
I would say at a minimum, it would be nice to maybe see some, like a texture that's not black on there. From a purity standpoint, I'd be like, yeah, you should totally, it's your hero object, you should model all the details. From a practicality standpoint, I think if you are literally never going to see that in the render and you would rather, like it makes more sense to sort of clip cords coming out of the back of it for all those little cables and stuff. That's fine, you can go back in and add detail if you have time at the end.
Okay.
But it seems like if there's other things that you need to work on, I would probably do those first for the overall scene. But yeah, I like the little rainbow lights you have going on. It's weird. Did you have any other questions or?
So is the lighting for turntable good enough? Like the composition lever? Because it's going to take a lot of time to
I would say that's pretty reasonable. The only thing, so like on a few of the renders, like the one that just passed, the side was falling into complete blackness. So I would say try to, and that might just be like you happen to catch the one frame where it's doing that effect. But I might go through and look at those specific frames and maybe render a few areas, like a few frames to each side of that. If this is, again, just like the one thing where you caught the side and it was all black, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's like this for an extended period of time, I might add like another soft light in there to help kind of counter that. But apart from that, I mean, I can see all of the, you know, details and stuff in your object, and these little grates and stuff, which is cool. So I think that would be really my only concern is like those few areas where it's like really, really dark. Cool. Anything else?
That's
Cool. Anybody else want to look at their projects?
like
Mike, thank you. All right. Thank you for noting that this is a high poly object. Cool. All right, so while that is doing its thing and downloading the file, is there any specific question you had, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to know how do you make a transparency map? Like if I've got like a thing of glass, but I want to have like smudges and like specks on it, like kind of dirty.
Yeah.
So that parts are like semi-transparent, but other parts are you can see through it.
Right. Yeah, so
I wasn't sure how to do that.
gotcha. So that is something I have no idea what your object looks like, but I can start something sketchy in Photoshop. So that would be, and this is high poly object, so rendering an Arnold or
Yeah.
similar. Create. All right, so totally clear is a transmission weight of 0, or I'm sorry, of 1. So your background should presumably be white if this thing is supposed to be like properly clear. And then I would just go back in, and you can absolutely find some like better brushes for this. But just go in with like really subtle, I mean, I say subtle and then I do this, which is super questionable, but just kind of like put stuff like this in. Usually, it completely depends on how you like working. Again, I would advise doing like actual, finding like nice texture maps. But if you take the opacity down to something really obnoxious like 4, that'll make those really, really subtle and like not overpowering.
Okay.
And one thing I'll usually do is I have this weird tendency of just sort of working with black and then coming down and like modifying the opacity to do whatever I need it to do. Sometimes it does create like kind of weird effects if they're overlapping, but kind of gets the job done-ish. And again, obviously you would use like nicer looking stuff than this, but if I save this as a PNG, I'm just going to continue using the keyboard file because why not? I say that as soon as your thing downloads. That's exciting. So is this for the face of the, or like the blast in the front of your grandfather clock thing? Okay. All right, that might take a minute and a half to open. But yeah, so theoretically, you should be able to just map this straight on to transmission and be good.
Okay.
Now I'm actually curious and kind of want to test that. And don't be surprised. So like one thing that's weird about like specularity and scratches and like smudgy stuff, a lot of times they don't show up in all the render angles. So it's not entirely uncommon to put a texture on and have it be really subtle, and then like as you rotate your object, the light catches it in a certain way, and that's when you see the stuff. So that's totally fine. Like a lot of the times, unless it's like really, really gross smudging or like really deep scratching, it won't necessarily show up unless you like highlight it a certain way.
Okay. So it would go in the transmission loop.
Yes.
Okay.
And since I now have your files open, I will actually test that and see what horrors my map is about to perpetrate on your file. I am sure it is nothing good. Sure, I'll try turn tab. That's also how I usually label my turntables. All right, so where am I going? Yeah, so you should be able to just like attach it into here. And this is going to be weird because I've put it in a separate place. All right. I have doubts this will look nice. All right. So this might just be like one of those weird things where it's like, it kind of looks like here's maybe like one of the scratches that I put in here. So these are clearly oversized for your renders. Do you have like little scratches in here? On the glass?
I think those are the scratches that's on like the bells behind it.
Okay. Either way, I like them. They're subtle. But yeah, so it looks like it seems like it's showing up the texture I did is just like really stupid, but that's pretty much how you would do that.
Okay.
And then for whichever, because I think this is one of the areas in question, at that point, like whatever is not completely transparent, shoot, is going to pick up whatever color you have mapped in up here. So I don't know what you actually have mapped in, but it's about to turn bright red. And that's usually, a lot of times when I'm working with dye, oh no, I put the wrong texture on, okay. Oh, okay, whoops, my bad. It's about to turn bright green. But a lot of times, like whatever, I'll sort of throw like a weird texture onto the color just so I can see exactly where those specks are showing up if it's not obvious at first. But you could add that on as like different grime, or like if there was, you know, any kind of like weird different stains on there, you could color that in with a color map if you wanted to.
So you put that into transmission color?
So transmission color is actually a tint to the overall glass. So like if I change transmission color, it becomes blue glass.
Like if you want the smudges to be colored, where do you put that in?
Just the regular like diffuse color.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anytime it's not completely clear for transmission, it's going to pick up a tiny bit of this diffuse color. And I'm actually curious. Oh, did I? Either way, I could put a checker texture on and make it really obnoxious, but that's like the basic principle. Does that help? Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else want to look at their stuff? All right. If that is the case, I think I'm just going to wander on to other things since the downloads are being super irritating. Last call for looking at things? All right. Cool. So I do have a